Merry Christmas, everyone. So, back on Halloween, we did a Halloween day. Today, I want to do Christmas day, but we don't got a person around. Oh, Stephanie's not here. It's just me this time. Because, you know, it turns out people are more busy around Christmas than Halloween. Funny how that goes. I'm going to try to find, so here's the twist, fucking Halloween games, scary games, not that hard to find. Whole genre, oh, I just threw something. Whole genre dedicated to that, easy peasy, no biggie. Christmas games, oh, way more niche, way more difficult to turn into mechanical things that people like, and generally speaking, stuff that's based on Christmas is a whole bunch of garbage. It's just hot garbage. So, I'm going to be, this is my special mission today, is given a few attempts, can I find any genuinely decent games that fit the Christmas spirit? Not necessarily fit the Christmas spirit, but Christmas theming and all that. That'll be our game for today. Will I get it all in my first attempt, or is today going to be a complete wash? I have no idea. I'm going to play some very different games. I got some tabs open. Let's see how this goes. Fall on your knees. Content warning. You may not be... those who have strong negative associations with the church may have some aspects of this. Maybe it's difficult and unsettling. What does strong negative associations mean? Because I'm an atheist, does that count? Or do you mean like you have like church trauma? Because those are two very different things. I feel like we could use more specific... We'll see. I can handle it. Act 1. Sawdust. Wake up, D. You're almost there. D? Blurred vision and bleary eyes. That's right, isn't it? It says D in the app. I don't know. The town smells like firewood. Timber mills. Up at the ridge. Sawdust that scatters on the wind to take its turn in the sky before falling back to the earth. You better wake up, man. My GPS went out. I got it, don't worry. Clearing frost from a window requires a sleeve or a nose, and you can't muster the energy for either. From the back seat of this car, the whole world might be covered in a layer of glass. Follow the trees. Got it. It won't be long now. The little house at the base of the ridge, a line of trees pointing straight to your door. You're looking for a house with a dragon on the roof. He cranes his neck around the headrest to look at you. You sure? You'll see it. Oh, hold on, my service came back. The lights on the houses diffract through the glass, reds and blues, Christmas lights, spilling off the gutters and down into the car. The driver's face catches a flash of yellow from a particularly extravagant display, and for a moment, you can see the color in his eyes. This is some pretty alright writing, by the way. Just from the... I can't say like a structural level, or like if the story's gonna be good or not, but like, just moment to moment, this is written in an entertaining and coherent and also not full of weird errors way. But the car moves on, and the color is gone before you can give it a name. Here we are. Thanks. AD? Yeah. I don't see a dragon. He's right. The roof is bare. Maybe you don't need a weather vane in winter. But they always kept it up before. Huh. He steps out of the car to pop the trunk and looks around. Smells like something burning around here, huh? That's home. He grunts. Well, have a good one. Merry Christmas. He nods at you and slides back into the driver's seat. Before you make it up to the stoop, the car is gone. It's just you and the door, D, and the family on the other side. Welcome home. When the door opens, it'll all happen at once. Mom and Dad, Lisa and Joe, a lot of love, a lot of questions, and very little silence. Out here, in the cold, you have a moment to take it all in. The feeling of a plastic handle weighing heavy against your fingers, the smell of sawdust drifting on the wind, the taste of ash when the mill-tinged air settles soft against your tongue. It feels like something. It feels like home. It feels so far away. When you're ready, D, you can turn the key. What a light that is. The old chandelier, half loose at the base, painting its rays along the wood that lines the walls. The glow of candles casting shadows on the floor. No matter how many doors you open in your life, none feels quite like the one with a familiar room on the other side. He's turning to face you already. A smile and a spark. The glint of a wine glass. Welcome home, D. Before you can speak, you're in the air and the suitcase falls limp against the ground. Dad was always one for bear hugs. A clatter of plastic on a hardwood floor sends echoes through the house, and within a moment the room is ablaze. How's the wrist, kid? What have they been feeding you? Stop. You look good, D. You poor thing, covered in snow. Mom, Lisa won't let me play with her. D's home? D's home! Lisa, take your brother's bag. I always have to take the bag. Hell of a storm today, huh? Give the bag to Lisa. The bag changes hands and disappears, whisked away to some place beyond the kitchen. A childhood bedroom, still decorated with posters of concerts you can hardly remember. Lisa sleeps there now. The paper peels at the corners. Honey, did we pick up Dee's cereal? Is it scary to fly in the snow? I'm so glad you made it home. You haven't changed the locks yet, huh? Someone lit the fire before you got home, almost an hour ago now, by the size of it. It's nice. A crackling smell that settles in the woodwork. A new dining room always felt a little too clean. As Dad herds your sisters into the kitchen to give you the space to settle in, Mom leans in to kiss you on the forehead. Let me take your coat, DF. DF? Jesus, Mom, I haven't heard that one in years. Apparently it means dragonfly? Dad's voice drifts in from the next room. Hey, it's Christmas Eve. First commandment rules, no Jesus talk, unless it's the biblical kind. Christ, Dad, listen up. Lighten up. Mom laughs and pats you on the cheek. No trouble tonight, okay? Oh, I would never. The smell is getting into your skin now. It's good. The feeling of an airplane always lingers until something warm replaces it. You could use a little peace. Mom leads you into the kitchen, where Dad is entertaining Joe with a homemade puppet of felt and pipe cleaners. Off in the corner, Lisa sits propped up against the wall with a sketch pad in her lap, trying to capture the shadows of a hanging plant. So, Dad says, you're coming with us this year. You're coming with us this year. Yeah, I am. Mom smiles. Her steps seem a little lighter than usual. I'm so glad. It's been years. She glances at the clock on the wall and clicks her tongue. We'd better get going. She disappears up the stairs, and Dad shoos Joe off into her room to change. He sets a glass of wine down on the kitchen table and pulls out a chair for you. A telltale rocking of the seat marks the time you leaned back too far and sent one of its legs sprawling across the floor. It really means a lot to her, you know. I know. She tries to let you make your own choices, she really does, and we want you to be your own person. But it means a lot to her. I already agreed, okay? He shrugs. I know this is a big deal for you, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but it's not really about the religious stuff, you know? She just wants you to be part of the family. Say nothing. With a grunt of effort, Dad eases himself down in the chair across you. God, Christmas Mass, how many years has it been? I'm not sure. He swirls the wine in his glass and gazes aimlessly at the ceiling. My streak was 9. 9 years. Then I met your mom, and she wanted me to go back. Smile. Anyway, he stands up and stretches. I'd better get dressed. He takes a few steps up the stairs and then pauses to lean back over the railing. I mean it, Dee. It means a lot. And then he's gone. The hissing of the radiator muffles the sound of speech, and you can barely hear Lisa and Joe arguing in the next room. Only the occasional word insists on being heard over the relentless sound of an old, warm house in winter. You've got a little time to yourself. After all, you flew in your church clothes. Christmas Eve in a Catholic church. A buttoned shirt and pleated pants. The kind of tradition your mind forgets, but your body remembers. When Dad called you last week and asked you to come, you weren't sure what to say. It's hard to imagine that old church is still standing, way out there on the edge of town, down in the valley where the lights wink out. It might as well be a dream. But it was important, he said. She misses you, he said. You don't have to believe in anything, but this means something to someone you love. When you put it like that, it's hard to say no. An hour or so in a familiar place, however uneasy, is a small price to pay for family. And who knows, it might still be beautiful. That startled me a little bit. A flash of orange light erupts from the far wall, and the sound of a crack splits the air around the fireplace. The metal grate that guards the fire glows from behind as a shower of sparks blooms up from the flame. So Dad never fixed the tear in the ventilation. At least that hasn't changed. Joe wanders out of her room and poses in the doorway. A glittery dress and a clip-on bow tie. It's hard not to smile. Don't you look fancy? She covers her eyes with her hands, then bounces into your lap and lays her head against your shirt. Her dress sparkles in the light of the chandelier. How long are you staying this time? Not very long. Okay. She's 6 years old. Bigger than you remember. Her head is warm on your chest. Will you count the stars with me? Of course. The stars. Down here at the base of the ridge, the houses are too close together to see much of anything in the sky at night. Street lamps and porch lights conspire to block out the sky, and anything beyond the Big Dipper is hazy in the dark. But around Christmas, the lights come out. Without waiting for a reply, Joe clambers up onto your shoulders and pats you on the head. Giddy up, Dee. It's time to play. You have to crouch to get through the front door without banging your head on the frame, but she is too distracted making horse sounds to notice. Neighs, whinnies, and gentle kicks against your side. Look, Dee, they're here. She's right. The house across the street is covered in Christmas lights. White, red, blue, green, and everything in between. They must have cost a fortune. In the haze of the ridge air and the cover of snow, each one spreads to form a little ball of color in the dark. Joe's already counting. If you crane your neck, you can see her face. One eye squeezed shut, the other squinting to focus the light. Her left hand is pressed up against her forehead to sweep the hair out of her eyes. I've counted them all, Dee. Already? She snorts. I'm very fast. How many are there? More than ever this year. She fidgets on your shoulders. It must be, 1,000 million. That's a lot of stars, Joe. Yeah. She drops her arms. Are there people on them? I hope so. She squeezes your neck with her legs. The sign that she wants to be let down. When she finds her footing on the porch, she wraps her arms around your legs and buries her face against you. Mom says you're coming with us this year. I am. She shivers in the cold. Why don't you come every year? It's hard to explain. Joe releases her hold on your legs and takes one last look at the lights across the street. Lisa won't count the stars with me anymore. She says it's not what grown-ups do. She turns to look up at you, then takes you by the hand and leads you back inside. I'm glad you're home, Dee. Love you, Joe. As soon as you're through the door, Mom scoops Joe into her arms and carries her back outside. In the hall, Dad is adjusting his tie in the mirror. Mom, start in the car. Grab Lisa for me, will you? He smooths his shirt and walks into the cold. Lisa's room, your room, is in the back corner of the house, past the kitchen. The door frame still has little green flowers painted at its base. A finger painting project from a long time ago. Through the half-open door, in the mirror of the far wall, you can see Lisa sitting on the floor. Knock on the door. Lisa disappears from the reflection and the door swings wide. A glimpse of something. Glitter on a shag carpet. Empty space over the bed where you once hammered a hook into the wall to hang a tambourine. The door closes with a smack, and she's standing in front of you. What were you doing in there? She buries her hands into the pockets of her coat. Are you happy to be home? What kind of question's that? She pulls the coat tighter. It's just, usually you seem more excited. Usually we get to talk for a while. Mom and Dad were in a rush to get to church. She looks at her shoes. I know, but you talked to Joe and not me. I missed you, Lisa. She wraps her arms around you and sniffs into your scarf. We don't get to see you much. Let's go somewhere tomorrow morning, just you and me. She pulls away and looks up at you. She's taller than she used to be. Her neck doesn't tilt when she looks you in the eyes. Can we drive to the river? I'll ask Mom to borrow her car. Her hands emerge from the pockets as she begins to picking at her collar. And it'll be just you and me? As long as we're back in time for presents. She beams. I'm sorry if I made you feel bad about spending time with Joe. It's really okay. Don't worry. Dad's voice bellows through the door from the front yard. It's time to go. Hey, Dee? I tug at your hand. I really missed you. I missed you too. She smiles. Dad calls again. And Lisa guides you back to the front door. So far, this is super wholesome. And it definitely is tinged with the suggestion that there's a bad darkness to it somewhere in there. Something's wrong. I'm getting the Night in the Woods feeling. Particularly with the parents, that feeling that like, welcome home, you haven't been here for a while. We're all kind of passively agreeing not to talk about something is almost the feeling I'm getting. The car is idling in the street. It's going to be weird, Dee. You can be sure of that. But maybe it'll be something else too, you never know. Lisa climbs into the back of the car while Dad folds himself into the passenger seat. A gust of wind sends a shiver through your teeth. There's one seat left for you, and no matter what else happens, it'll be warm inside. Time for church. Act 2, Service. and also an excellent time to take a break for some water. It smells warm in here. Dusty books and dark velvet. Light streaming in through through two long, narrow windows that vault the ceiling. Did the rafters always reach so high? When Mom took you to church as a kid, she preferred to go in the morning. Most of the year that meant that services would just start just after sunrise. In the winter, though, when the days closed in, the light might still be hiding behind the trees when you walked through the door. It was hard to pay attention. The mind is made to wander. As the choir started to sing and the pastor's voice began to rustle through the speakers in the walls, your eyes would drift and flit about. Where else could they land but pink in the sky? Maybe it's something about the time of day. The windows in the ceiling cross paths directly above the altar, and when the sun lifts itself above the trees, the light streams in just so to eliminate the dust in the air. Tonight, though, the sun is long since gone. Midnight services at Christmas Eve. If you were outside, you imagine you might see stars. But from the belly of this church, the sky is painted black, ink spilled on a pane of glass, and the rafters spill up into the cavern of the ceiling, waiting for the voice of God. That's enough, D. People are filtering in by the dozen. You've got to find a seat. Mom wanted to get here early. Christmas Mass is always crowded, and Joe isn't old enough to stand. Around this time of year, the church fills up, and lapsed Catholics who aren't quite ready to stop believing in prayer. At least you're not alone. There are sensations in this room that feel familiar. The gentle bounce of a plush red carpet against the soles of your shoes. Green felt lining on the kneelers that fold down from the pews. Mom's hand between your shoulder blades. I'm really glad you came, DF. Yeah. The church is packed, and filling up further by the second. After a bit of searching, Mom waves you over a few empty seats on either side of the aisle. Sit with Mom and Lisa. Because it's supposed to be so important to both Mom and Lisa. Actually, well, 3 of these people have all kind of guilted me. Or 4 people have kind of guilted me, but Dad has guilted me about Mom. Lisa slides in behind you, leaving Mom at the end of the row to keep an eye on Joe from across the aisle. Next to you, a man in an untucked shirt sits with a baby strapped to his chest. He looks young by church standards, 30? 35? He's alone. He seems preoccupied by the baby. Every once in a while, he leans down to kiss it on the head, then cranes his neck to look toward the front door. One time he catches your eye. He squints. Her name is Eleanor. Nice to meet you, Eleanor. He smiles a bit, takes Eleanor's hand and makes her wave at you. Behind you, Lisa gasps. She pokes her head under your arm to wave back at the baby. The man kisses Eleanor on the head again and lowers himself to a kneel, cradling her head to keep it from bumping against the pew. Merry Christmas. You too. The church is really filling up now. They'll start any minute. It's been a long time since you were here. At least the building is the same. At least there are a few familiar faces in the crowd, even if you don't know their names. Mom still folds her hands the same way when she prays, right over left, fingers interlocked, palms open wide enough for her thumbs to meet at the tip. In her notebook, Lisa is drawing dragons. She puts it down and kneels next to Mom, working her fingers into an imitation of the pattern. At least you're together. It might feel good to pray, just once, even if you don't believe in it anymore. Who knows? Maybe it'll work this time. And even if it doesn't, the music will be good. a few stray instruments crammed into a space behind the altar, and a voice that fills the room. Carols and hymns, songs and prayers. It's a funny thing about being raised in the church. 10 years later, you still know all the words. When the doors close, the band begins to play. An organ, then a violin, then a flute. And when the cantor raises her hands, the congregation begins to sing. Come along. It's dizzying, almost, to be swept up like this. The music in the air, the paneling on the walls, the smell of the pews, the kind of song that wraps itself around your fingers and settles in the spaces in your hands. In a trance like this, you hardly notice the priest approaching the altar, and you hardly notice the music beginning to fade. And it takes you quite by surprise when the sound of a clearing throat bellows out from the speakers in the walls. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. The word is a rising tide from the crowd around you, murmured into the air by 100 voices all at once. You are a part of the ocean now. The Mass begins. Let us pray. The priest lifts his hands into the air. Everyone around you is starting to kneel. This part, at least, feels familiar. Every row comes equipped with a kneeler, fixed to a hinge that swings down from the pew ahead. Its felt cover gives way to hard wood beneath the pressure of your knees. Close your eyes. There's something about the darkness that draws you inside yourself. The sounds are the same as they ever were. The rustle of bodies, the whistle of wind, the settling of the walls. Remember. It's been a long time since you prayed. Maybe a decade now. You might have tried once or twice after you stopped going to church, but it's always felt like cheating. It didn't seem right to ask for help from someone you left behind. But that's not even half of your life, is it? Every week, from the moment you could talk, Mom brought you to the church at the edge of town and taught you how to kneel. This doesn't seem like the time to pray. There was a chance once, but it's long since passed. Out west a few months ago, back when the seasons changed, red leaves and cool winds, the curling of the grass. God, what a horrible day that was. A few wrong words at the bus station, the weight of someone else's suitcase in your hand. You never figured out the right way to say goodbye. Prayer wouldn't have helped much, though. It's hard to ask for favors when you don't know what you want. Oh well. The seasons changed again. The autumn turned to winter, and the earth keeps turning towards spring. Even now, new things are bubbling in the soil. It won't be dark forever. And even if it is, the stars are beautiful tonight. A telltale rustling marks the end of the prayer, and the speakers on the walls crackle once again with the sound of the pastor's voice. He pauses for a response. Amen. You must have heard this incantation a few hundred times. The priest is muttering into the microphone. The words are echoing off the walls. And all around you, the crowd bows its head as one. Do you miss being here, Dee? Do you miss feeling like you belong? It's been so long since... The Lord be with you. And also with you. Ah. And with your spirit. That isn't what they used to say. It's amazing how quickly you lose grip on the earth. One stray breath and you'll float away. If you aim it right, you might hit the glass in the ceiling and make a quick escape. Lisa smirks. She elbows you and whispers something about forgetting. But you didn't forget. Did they change the words? Your mouth is dry. You think you left a bottle of water in the car. The priest starts talking about sin. There's some sort of incantation, and everyone seems to know it but you. Even Lisa is doing her best to mumble along. The congregation is united in a single voice. I confess to Almighty God, I have greatly sinned, my thoughts and in my words, through my fault. The world starts to blur. A member of the congregation steps up to the altar and begins to read from the Bible laid out to the pulpit. It's something from the Old Testament, a prayer, not a story. Blood, peace, and a kingdom of light. There is a pause at the altar. The reader must have finished. He looks happy. Charcoal suit with a red tie. This means a lot to him. A clearing of the throat. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Thanks be to God. Lisa smiles at you. You remembered this time? Yeah. The church comes back into focus. The ringing fades from your ears. One reading flows to another, to another, to another. The words blend together and the wind strikes the church from the hills beyond the walls. And once more the pastor is speaking. Another murmured prayer. Mom looks happy. It's good to be here. At least the smells make sense. At least the songs are familiar. At least no one is leaving tonight. Do you miss her, Dee? I don't know. The wind picks up in the distance. The last few leaves of autumn are shaken from their trees. No star shines forever. Bullshit. The pastor raises his eyes. The Lord be with you. And with your spirit. And with your spirit. Peace be with you, and also with you. Funny how things change. Maybe the spirit needs more peace than the person it lives inside. Maybe they know something you don't. Maybe. It can't hurt to try. Do you remember when you used to like coming here? Strange faces, smiling, bowing in time with the words that helped them carry on. So what if you don't believe anymore? So what if you never did? The people in this room have something to pin their hopes on. Maybe just for tonight, you can hope with them. Maybe just for tonight, you can put aside the fear. Maybe this time, it'll all turn out all right. I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop. That was really unnerving earlier. The priest is wrapping up his sermon. The congregation bristles. You know this part by heart. There's something intoxicating about the prayer, etched as it is deep into your bones. The memory lifts itself out of your lungs and skates across your tongue. We believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. Here we go. Of all things visible and invisible. A single voice out of step with hundreds is a curious thing. We believe in one Lord, Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, eternally descended from the Father, the only begotten Son of God, born from the Father before all ages. No matter how loud the crowd, a shattering sound will always stand out against a harmony. Light from light, true God from true God. Begotten, not made. One in being with the Father. Begotten, not made. Consubstantial with the Father. Because no matter how close it gets, it can never match the chord. And no matter your fear, you can't seem to stop yourself from speaking. We believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. You didn't expect to feel like this. The resurrection of the dead, a mouthful of sand and a tongue like a lead pipe. For the praise and glory of his name. Lisa leans her head forward to catch a glimpse of your face. The Lord be with you. Don't speak. Lift up your hearts. Don't. Let us give thanks to our Lord. Let us give thanks to the Lord our God. It is right to give him thanks and praise. It is right and just. That's enough. Eleanor's harness bumps against your side as you press past her father and into the aisle beyond. Another parting, another missed goodbye. Mom will understand. She had to know this would be hard for you. Through the standing crowd and into the night outside, a difference in texture from carpet to stone. It's not your fault, Dee. Yes, it is. Oh, this is getting interesting. Act 3. Sky. An entire room of people perfectly in step except you. It's a lot of people's biggest fear in some ways. Not the one that they would say, but the one that they can feel. It's cold. Early enough in the winter that a few stray leaves still litter the ground, but late enough in fall for the kind of wind that rips the warmth from your skin. Your toes curl instinctively against the frost. It's dark. They never built any streetlights out here, on the edge of town. At least you can always see the stars. The parking lot stretches wide into the hills. Rows of cars extend into the sky until the asphalt meets the horizon. In the dark like this, it might go on forever. Time to catch your breath. Let's get the water from the car. They never lock the cars out here. A safe neighborhood. 3 rows up, 2 rows down. A dark blue hatchback with room for 5. Mom's been parking in this spot since you were a kid. Your water is still lying on the floor in the back seat. It doesn't do much to drain the sand from your throat. Still, it's better than nothing. And the hood of the car makes a good place to sit and watch the stars. It doesn't feel like home anymore. Oh well. That's no surprise. It stopped feeling like home even before you left. But it wasn't like this. The wrong thing. Think it. Speak it. Feel it. Always the wrong thing. There was a place out west for a while that felt like home. Coffee machines and idle hands. The smell of fresh baked bread and baskets full of yarn. But the wrong thing came and went. And the wrong thing worked its way into your minds and under your tongues, and the wrong thing urged itself to be spoken. She heard about a problem she thought she could fix out west. Out west from out west. Further still into the unknown. So she packed her bags and found a bus that went where she needed to go, and the wrong thing found a way to be said. Why did you ask her to stay? I wanted to keep what we had. Funny, the wrong thing always comes from a want, and the want is always beautiful. The crunch of gravel breaks your reverie, a long, low shadow that cascades along the cars. Holy shit, D, is that you? Turn around. The figure's too dark to discern, framed as it is by the lights of the church, but the voice is unmistakable. Camilla? Camilla? I can't tell who's talking in this game. I need more water, too. They laugh. Some fucking friend you are, huh? I've been Cam for years. Shit, sorry. Another laugh. No, man, forget about it. It's been a while, huh? They step forward, and a familiar face jumps out of the dark. Gray eyes, green hair, and a septum piercing. The same army surplus jacket they've been wearing since you were 15. It's good to see you, D. You too, Cam. Hey, don't sound so excited, okay? Wide as it is, their smile is still only barely visible in the starlight. You couldn't take it either, huh? They changed the mess. Oh yeah. A few years back, a new translation caused havoc for a few months, but we all learned. They wipe some dust off the hood with their sleeve and sit down next to you. Of course, I only come on Christmas. This is my first time in years. No shit. Welcome back. With a sigh, Cam begins to pat around the sides of their coat. This is a ritual you remember. Pockets on pockets. Impossible to find anything. After a few seconds, they extract a pack of cigarettes from an unseen compartment. You want one? Sure. They smile. Just like old times. In the flame of the lighter, Cam's face is cast in color for the first time since they wandered out of the dark. Dark hair blooming up at the roots, small red stains in the corner of their eyes. When the flame winks out, the dark sets in. A face cast in monochrome from the dim blue light. Shadows that swallow the smoke as it unfurls into the sky. So, what's new? I moved out west. They turn to face you directly for the first time since they wandered out of the dark. When they inhale, the light at the tip of the cigarette blossoms to reveal the sparkle in their eyes. Out west, huh? I hear it's different out there. Completely. Cam takes a long, slow drag for a moment and the earth is still. Well, I'd like to make it out there someday myself. But I've got enough to do around here. A gust of wind sweeps from the cars and sends a layer of salt skittering across the asphalt. A few grains settle on a patch of ice at your feet. Maybe it'll turn to water sooner than the seasons intend. Cam lies back on the hood and closes their eyes. In the shadow of the church, the quiet rests heavy in your ears. What's new with you? Oh, you know, this and that. Still working retail. Wherever I can get it. Bounced around for a few different places. Never seem to last anywhere for long. Everyone says I'm still finding my feet. They smirk. Most everyone moved across the river to the city. Not much of a city, but I guess it's still better than here. Miles comes back every once in a while, and Elle lets me stay in her apartment when I drive over. How's Elle? She got married. No kidding. Her girlfriend proposed after 3 months. You remember that girl who used to work at the drive-thru at Benny's? The one who wore the same Metallica hoodie every day for a year? Cam bursts out laughing midway through a drag and starts coughing up smoke. Fuck, I forgot about that. You could tell when she washed it each month by waiting for the ketchup stains to move around. It felt good to laugh. Cam wipes a tear from the corner of their eye. Sure, she used to be kind of a mess, but she's a good one, apparently. Makes Elle happy. They have a Pomeranian named Lucky. I'm happy for her. They smile and flick a spray of ash onto the ground. We should hang out again, D. I miss you. Am I still allowed in the treehouse? Cam sits up. Shit, D. You've really been gone for a while, huh? I guess so. The bank foreclosed on us last year. Not just him, everyone within half a mile of the river. The whole neighborhood got shut down for a new development. Some bullshit clause in the contract that let them cancel our mortgage for non-residential developed opportunities. With the last few words, they lift the hands to paint quotation marks in the air. The fading light at the end of their cigarette bobs in the dark. I had no idea. They hunch their shoulders up and turn to face away until you can barely see it behind the collar of their jacket. The air turns cold. I don't really want to talk about it with you, D. It was a shitty time and you weren't there. But I love that house. Ooh. Cam stubs their cigarette out on the hood of Mom's car and flicks it to the ground. Things changed, D. The house is gone. Didn't expect I'd have to explain that to you. A silence. It's too cold for a conversation like this, the kind of wind that works its way deep into the marrow of your bones. A carol drifts its way out of the church to settle on the pavement. At least you have each other. A thin-lipped smile. I don't need silver linings. You weren't here. That's okay, but I'm fine, D. I don't need you to come home and fix my problems for me. A pause in the service. The quiet is all around. I'm sorry. Listen, D, I'd better get back inside. Looks like they're letting out. In the spire above the church, a bell begins to ring. Take care of yourself, okay? You too. They're gone. Fuck. The doors swing wide and the churchgoers spill out by the dozen. Cam finds their uncle in the doorway and disappears. In a few minutes, Mom and Dad will make their way through the throng and find you in the darkness, and then you'll have to answer for your absence. It's hard to imagine having that conversation. What do you even say? Sorry, Mom, I couldn't fuck up in church because I had to fuck up with Cam. She'll understand, of course. She always does. But the thought of seeing her now wraps a hand around your throat. You don't have much time. The air is filling with the voices of the joyful, and it's getting harder to breathe. You can make it back. You can talk to Mom. You can tell her you're sorry. You can spend Christmas at home. But it's so very hard. And it's so very dark out here at the edge of town. And you need a moment of peace. Just one moment, and you'll be okay. A second to catch your breath. Not here. Somewhere you can be alone. You know the spot. Everyone calls it the church on the edge of town, but that isn't quite true. A real border splits the top of the hill, whose base forms the other end of the parking lot. Up there, you can be alone. People tend not to try to make it up there in the dark. There's a story about this hill. There's a story about most hills, but unlike most hills, this one feels familiar beneath your feet. It's funny. You told Amira you'd take her one day. She never made it. Maybe you shouldn't have told her. Maybe you shouldn't have made promises you couldn't keep. Oh well. No sense dwelling in the past. It's time to move, D. To the edge of the lot where the asphalt turns to dirt. To the edge of the dirt where the soil turns to grass. To the edge of the grass at the top of the hill where an old tree with wide branches might still make a perfect seat for watching the sky. How long has it been since you made this trek? Last time I went to church. The path still feels familiar. Cool grass underfoot, stalks so long they brush up against your pants and spread dew on your ankles. Half-melted snow to mark the changing of the season. If it's as beautiful as you remember, then it'll be worth the climb. Why didn't you come back sooner? It didn't feel right to pass the church. Tradition's a powerful thing. A weekly ritual for the mornings after church. The pale yellow light of a newly risen sun. Mom carrying you on her shoulders when you were still too young to walk. Will it be how you remember? Is it how you remember, D? Does the sky still look the same? Does the wind weigh the same against your shoulders? Can your feet find the path without the aid of your eyes? Do you remember what it looks like, where the sky stretches wide? Do you remember what it looks like at the end of the world? Most people, you later learned, don't grow up in towns at the edge of the earth. A sea of stars rises up over the hilltop. A fading tree leans out into the open air. This is how the world ends. At the crest of a hill, at the edge of town, the grass just stops and the earth falls away. It's amazing how quickly you can get used to something like this. The sudden drop into darkness, and the empty feeling it brings. The long, low horizon where the blackness meets the stars. It's been like this for as long as you can remember. The end of everything, just past the church. No one even thinks to talk about it when describing the town. The only landmark they mention is the mill. The edge of the earth. Beautiful, but not too special. Plenty of things end, and the earth is no exception. The trek to crest the hill has one purpose: to be alone in the face of something bigger than yourself, to witness the creatures who inhabit the dark. God. They look even bigger than you remember. Colossal figures floating in the distance, looping their snake-like bodies to wrap around the stars. If you're careful, you can rest your body at the edge of the earth, legs over the edge, hanging into the unknown. But as a child, you were always too afraid. Maybe tonight you'll work up the courage, but not yet. Not until you have some time to breathe. Oh, this is getting really interesting. What in the world is happening? It's cold up here. Your breath turns to vapor in the air and rises up to meet the creatures in the stars. Maybe they remember you. You remember them, of course. How could you forget? Serpentine forms coils in the air, plucking stars out of the sky and shuffling the constellations around. You shouldn't have told her. Or maybe you should have. She can make her own choices, but you wish she'd chosen differently. Amira believed she could fix things. She thought the Earth was worth saving. You love that about her. But in a fight, at the behest of some petty grievance whose memory has not stood the test of time, the wrong thing burned a hole in your mind. And it found a way to be said. It always does. What's the point? It's all ending anyway. Most people, you later learned, don't grow up in towns at the edge of the earth. You had told her about the spirits, of course, but you hadn't told her about their hands. You hadn't mentioned the way they reshape the stars. You hadn't told her that they were getting closer. Some things seem better left unsaid. Maybe it would have ended differently if you'd just gone with her, Dee. Maybe she'd be here if you'd agreed to help. But how could you? This is just how things are. So she heard about a problem she could fix. She thought she could fix. Read about a group of people out west, at the other edge, who were trying to save the stars. What's the point of this, she said, if we can't stop the Earth from falling apart? Come with me. I can't. So she packed her bags and found a bus that went where she needed to go. Out west from out west. Further still into the unknown. Do you still believe what you said? All we can do is wait. I'm sorry. Cam. Turn around. I was hard on you. I'm sorry. What are you doing here? It's been really, really hard around here since you left. Not because you left, but you know what I mean. Their body shakes in the cold. I didn't want to leave things like that. Me neither. My uncle's still talking to his friends, and we have a few minutes, and I thought... A long, deep breath that spills out into the air. I thought we could sit together here and watch them. A pause. Like we used to. Yes, like we used to. Okay. That art is great. That's such good art. Hey, D? Turn to face them. What happened to you? I fell in love. Yeah, I figured. A pause. Where'd they go? Out to the other edge. Wow. That's it. Wow. They pull up a handful of grass and toss it over the edge. Do you think they'll find something there? I think so. Well, another handful of grass, an offering extended to the creatures in the sky. I'm sorry. It was my fault. I don't think we have much control over the things we do. I could have helped her. What did she want? She wanted to save the world. No shit, huh? I hope she does. Me too. Not much has changed for the better since around here since you left. I'm sorry. That's why I was so hard on you earlier. It's not like you had anything to do with it. But I want things to be how they used to be, and they aren't. A long breath blossoms into the air. I don't think they will be again. Listen. I'm afraid of them. A nod of the head, tilting toward the creatures in the sky. You know how when we were kids, it used to look like they were getting closer? Yeah. They haven't stopped. A shiver runs deep through your bones. Every year, a little closer. No one knows why. And with every inch, they move the stars around. Entire suns flicked out of orbit. What happens to the planets, D? What happens to the people there? I'm afraid to ask. A sigh. What I'm saying is... They cut themselves off. A deep breath, and they close their eyes. What I'm saying, D, is that everything changes, everything goes away. But I'd like to think that some things stay the same. They're shaking now. And when the stars go out, or move, or whatever those things are doing, I don't know. They're so beautiful, but I don't know if we're in their plan. We can only hope. Hey, D? Yeah? When they get closer, what do you think happens to us? The stars seem so far away. A moment stopped in time. The spirits in the sky all frozen in place with their fingers outstretched. What happens to us? Well... I don't know why, but I think we'll be okay. They shake their head and smile. Maybe. Maybe. It's not the end. Yeah? Lights in the sky. In a moment like this, hands have a tendency to find one another in the darkness. A wind picks up from behind. You know, after all these years, I was worried things might be different. But that's the thing about you, D. You still know just what to say. Fall on your knees, a game about coming home. For everyone who has lost a home and made a new one. For everyone who has lost their breath from looking at the stars. Well, that was awesome. That was actually really good. There's definitely a lot of comparisons to be made with the Night in the Woods. Definitely a quicker trajectory towards that ending, but you come home, there's sort of a hidden darkness, a thing that you don't want to acknowledge, a friction about something that happened before in your family or your community and so on. And then there's all these ways that, all the subtle ways that things have changed. This is something that I'm experiencing over the course of running this channel, is that I started this channel at my, I don't know, I ran this at my teenage home. I had a separate childhood home, I suppose. That was still the same town, though. Then years back, I moved out, and then I've moved again. And tomorrow, or for your, yeah. So at some point, I'll be visiting. The time's all weird. It's my tomorrow, your yesterday, I suppose. I'll be heading out to visit the town I grew up in. And every time I do, more and more things have changed, and everything's less and less familiar. And it's weird because you're losing your connection to the most familiar place in the world. The place that almost feels like your anchor to who you are. And you change when you're away from it, and it changes while you're away from it. And the connection is lost, and all the people seem stranger, and even any family that you used to see all the time, but don't see as often anymore, you sort of lose certain elements of familiarity. You catch up with people you haven't seen in 10 years, and find out things you wish you didn't have to find out. And that all sort of contextualizes your future as this great, scary enigma, which I think is part of what they're going for here with this more literal, supernatural element going on here. Well, that was neat. I'm really glad I went through that. I almost didn't. I was a little worried that it might be super, religion oriented to the point where you need to be in that culture to get out of it what you're supposed to get out of it, but I don't think that was the case. It's also the second visual novel I've played in the last over the last few months where you, after about an hour, you end up sitting with a girl on a hill looking at the stars, but for very different reasons. But that was also an interesting, weird experiment with a very different tone, though. Well, Merry Christmas, everyone. If you'd like to check out this game, there's a link in the description. Share it around.